Mr. Mayor, members of the council, as you know, I'm a regular attendee of these council meetings and functions. In March of this year, I reported to this council the problem of predatory remodeling in Columbia Heights. 3 months ago, in early August of this year at a work session, I presented to this council a body of evidence establishing the seriousness of predatory remodeling in Columbia Heights and the country at large, as well as several options for combating this type of real estate fraud at the city level. At that meeting, this council ordered the investigation of similar options in neighboring communities around the Twin Cities. Following the departure of Mr. Lauren Wickham, the city's investigation has come to a halt until Mr. Wickham's vacancy has been filled. Furthermore, it's come to my attention that the Columbia Heights has no intention of filling Mr. Wickham's position, but instead to fill 2 other badly needed vacancies in the city staff, quite understandably. So, Mr. Mayor and members of the council, it is my intention as a concerned citizen to serve this city and the state of Minnesota to the best of my ability and determination. So tonight I ask you, within the influence of this council, what can I do to prevent new home buyers from becoming victims of predatory remodeling in Columbia Heights as I have?
Mr. Nawrocki?
Well, when this came up before, we were told by the manager that this was being worked on. When I asked on a follow-up, it was just it's being worked on. Wasn't made aware that they stopped working on it.
Well, there were a couple times that the council had this occasion to have Frost come before you. The first time, I think, it was more or less shut down and said, well, this is a private matter. Their city doesn't have any control on this. And really, there's not much that the city could do in its own efforts. Since that time, and about, I don't know, within the next 2 months after that, I had met with Mr. Simula, and I think that just based on the conversations I had with him, and the fact that I believe he was certainly wronged in his communication with whoever it is sold him the building, or the realtor, or the inspector, or whoever, that we would look at various things that we could do. And I think that we are going to do that, and we were beginning to do that, frankly. Maybe not as fast as Mr. Simula wanted us to, but the fact is we did, we did lose a person here. We are going to be hiring a couple people, and that's one of those people would be working on what, if anything, we can do. I think Mr. Simula brought to our attention some things that might be a little too, they're very possible in, I think, Denmark or Finland or something that we might be a little beyond our reach. But on the other hand, if there is something we could do, we should do it, I think. And that's what our intention was to do, and we'd bring something back. We don't have that now for any kind of action. What Mr. Simula is asking for tonight is what can he do, and I really at a loss to tell you what to do. I obviously, I think you've already met with our legislators, and have you not?
I continue to, especially
Okay.
Representative Carolyn.
Well, if there were something that you would like us to consider, maybe that's beyond our reach, and is something that maybe ought to be considered by the legislature, and you wanted us to come along, or actually pass, have a letter that the council could support in asking our legislators to look at some kind of statutory relief, I think you should, if you know what it is that you want to do and want help with on, let us know. And we can bring it before the council at a work session and have them, either act on it in a favor of having Carolyn Lane or Barb Goodwin support it. And I think that's what we do. And if they didn't want to, we'd find that out quick too. But
Well,
that's the only thing I can think of. Excuse me.
It seems to me there's work that was done by a contractor that clearly violated our code, requirements of the code, on the way the work was done. And I find it difficult to believe that the contractor can do something like that, and we have no way to, let's say, get back on them, make them finish it, or take legal action, whatever it takes to
Yeah.
Correct.
I think as it evolved, first of all, as far as we know, whatever work was done wasn't done with our knowledge. The city did not know what was being done.
Yeah,
We're not in, we're not
And
at,
that's part of the problem.
well, it's a problem.
Anyone that does work, contractor type work without a permit and violates the code.
There you go.
That's where the city, they require a permit. And a person who's hiring somebody to do the work should hire a licensed contractor, somebody that's licensed with the state. This person wasn't licensed with the state, so the owner has no recourse to go back to the recovery fund because they're not a member. But I think the only thing that we can do as a city, we're going to look at that point of sale, but that wouldn't necessarily address. We'd have to be looking. They still could be deceptive practices, and without getting really in there scientifically and searching it through, you wouldn't know if something's covered up, as it was in your case. Now, I think we could have a public service announcement going on our TV program, letting people know that this practice has gone on in the city, and it's not approved, and people should get a permit and hire a licensed contractor. That's what we could do, an announcement, and ask that the neighbors, if a neighbor sees something going on next door or across the street and doesn't have a permit on the window, to call the city and have the city come out.
But apart from preventative measures, once this type of fraud occurs, there's absolutely no recourse for the victims, and there's no penalty for the person who committed the fraud.
Well, I think that'd be
That's where the courts come in.
where the courts
and
come in. It's a
penalty
private
for fraud.
And I understand that. What I'm asking from the city level is preventative measures that could be done, and this council did agree to investigate neighboring cities to do that. All I was asking was that we continue that investigation.
continue that. And I agree with you. I didn't know that, as Mr. Nawrocki said, I didn't know they had stopped pursuing that. So I'm sure that
Yeah.
Mr. Fehst can talk to him down there and see if they have the
It's our
staff to do
intention
it.
to pursue it, but it's not, I mean, we, like I say, we did lose a person in the department. We're not working on it right now. It is something that our initial review of what's out there already does not lead us to believe that there's an awful lot that cities are doing to try and catch a fraud that happens when we have no knowledge of it. And I think Jim, in our conversation with Jim, which we have a couple, it seems to be the best route to get relief is through courts. And of course, then you got to hire an attorney. How great is the wrongdoing? And then even if you went to a small claims court, it's a matter of even if you win, you have to go and get, good luck and get your money.
Sure, and that's
So-
exactly the case that I've understood. In
Yeah.
fact, what it's come to be my understanding is that the people who are victims of this type of fraud, the vast majority of them end up declaring bankruptcy and foreclosure because they have no other options right now. Very few states or cities have taken up any sort of stance against this type of fraud, which is my understanding is more pervasive than it may seem, because most people are simply giving up and declaring bankruptcy. They're not fighting it the way I am, only because I have enough financial backing to actually correct my situation and stay in my home. I've already gone through bankruptcy once. I'm not willing to do it again. So
It just blows my mind that we would say that somebody can violate our building code and we have no say or can't do a damn thing about it.
Well,
And
Did
that's
you
what
go-
happened here. Some
did
of
you
the
go through- you went-
Contractors came in, the contractor's the one that violated the code by not getting the permit, apparently.
Which contractor?
Huh?
Which contractor?
I believe that they told us before.
We don't.
I don't know the
It's a matter of proving
They told
things.
us before who the contractor was.
Well, it
know
is
who
a
the
matter of proving, was it the owner? Was it a contractor or several contractors? It's, if Mr. Simula could have proved it in court, which is where that type of thing normally sorts out things out, he would have done so. He would have had an attorney pick it up. But what happens is when you talk to these attorneys, there's either not enough money in it, and that's why he's asking us to look at preventive stuff. That's why, you know, I mean, if we can do something, we should do it, is what I think, but we are not prepared to bring it back to you at this point.
Mr. Fehst is correct
Yeah.
in saying that there's simply not enough money to recoup my expenses against the lawyer's costs.
Ross, did you buy this through a realtor?
I did buy it through a realtor, correct, who also bears some responsibility, but I think to Mr. Nawrocki's first point, you know, I think the seller bears the basic responsibility of holding our building codes.
In other words,
my point is to
I
be
thought the
able to
realtor had a
combat
little something to do with the contractor. I
No,
was
not,
led to
not
believe that.
entirely. He had something to do with talking me into certain purchasing practices, such as signing the disclosure waiver.
Well, see now, I think you got an unscrupulous realtor who I don't know who it is. But I certainly wouldn't, I would love to know who it is so that I would not promote him for anybody's business in Columbia Heights. And I would like to see his name turned to mud,
Sure.
as with the contractor or anybody who swung a hammer in your place. But that's about, I think, the limits that we can do is just not support them and be against them and do our public service announcements and making people aware that this stuff does go on. And, you know, if you see some guy carrying in a bunch of stuff in your neighbor's house, no permit there.
Sure. What I'm
And,
saying too is that the ability for anyone to fight this after it has happened is slim to none. I mean, I've been financially ruined by this. Just hiring a lawyer to be able to take on a civil case, which has been recommended
think
time and
the
again,
realtor
is going to
should
cost me anywhere
stand
between
some
35 and
monetary-
50,000.
I bet you didn't get any back of his commission, did they? Didn't give you back commission, did they?
No, nothing. I've received nothing from anyone.
No,
on this.
they sold a dud, and then they didn't give you back any commission, so it's all on you. It's all on you.
100% it's on me. I mean, repairs I'm looking at are between
Well, then,
75 and
I don't have
100,000.
much faith in that realtor, and I don't know who it is, but in private, I'll ask you sometime.
Sure. I guess all I'm asking is if there's anything that I can do as a citizen to prevent this from happening to anyone else,
I
it's
think what you're
it's my
doing is
obligation to
probably
do it.
the best you can do is just keep it on the forefront and keep us working in our way. If we can find a way to do something, we certainly will help, because you've certainly got us on your side. But, you know, we can't really do anything that legally that we can't do.
I would just hate to
Donna?
see another citizen of Columbia Heights or Minnesota have to go through what I've gone through,
I
because it
believe
is
and I understand
devastating.
Well, it still blows my mind that we say that a contractor can do work that violates our code, and we can't do a damn thing about going after him with some sort of penalty or suit or whatever.
Suppose you could
We're
sue
doing
them,
that.
then our proof, honest, to prove it.
Mr. Mayor and council members, it's a proof issue. We have a lot of laws in place for the things that were done on this property. The problem for this gentleman and for a lot of other people in this situation is proving who did what. And yes, if we can prove who did what, we certainly have several statutes and ordinances that we can use. But the ordinances and statutes don't help us out with proving who did what. That still has to be done, and that apparently it isn't possible in this situation. It may not be.
We know who the contractor was, is from.
Mr. Mayor and council members, I don't know that it's appropriate to relitigate this gentleman's situation in front of the council. If he has information that he believes points to a certain contractor or individual, he can present that information to the police department or to the county attorney or to the attorney general's office, and either one of those departments can see whether they can pursue that or not and get to a point where maybe they'll have probable cause to charge somebody. But nothing has been presented that bears that out.
Well, you can look and see some of the violations of city code.
By whom?
We were told before who the called
You
contractor.
don't know when those were violated, by who.
Jeez.
That's the problem. The county attorney has looked at this, Bruce. It's not something that, is, you know,
Yeah,
I understand there's only so much that can be done at the city level. I understand that. I understand there's no hope for my situation.
nothing's done
as
at
well.
city level.
Well, I wouldn't say nothing is done at the city level. I think that's an error, but by the same token, we don't have a staff of detectives to go out and look at this on this level. And with the budget discussions that we have, I don't think this council, at least one of the council, wouldn't want a new staff member added in the planning and zoning department
same one.
to pursue something like this. Donna?
Mr. Simeon, we both were emailed November 2nd, and I do believe Joe is truthful in saying that he will look into this again once it's fully staffed. So just please be patient. I know it's not a good time for you to have to wait longer, but I know Joe has talked to me about it, and talked to you about it, and he will look into it. Doesn't look into it in December. Well,
I have every faith in Mr. Hoshboom. I believe he's doing excellent work.
yes, I think so too. And he's looking for two new staff members to help. And if in the end, he will either be presenting it to us or Elizabeth or maybe the new staff member. I assume the beginning of the year because of the holidays coming up.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Frost.